gamers, back with another guide, another video. This time it is going to be how to play Delhi with Ghazi Raiders and 1 TC aggression. If you're interested in another Delhi guide, I already have Delhi 2 TC guide, which I think is actually pretty decent against some of the civs, but this is going to be like the Delhi that you see in tournaments that is played very, very often. So here we go. I haven't done a Delhi guide updated 1 TC aggression in like a year plus. The last time I've done a Delhi guide, they didn't have Ghazi Raiders, so that's a pretty long time ago. So as always, you're gonna open with 5 on wood, then you're gonna get only 1 turn in, and you're gonna immediately queue up a mosque with a 6th villager, queue up a house, queue up a mill, and when these guys have 10 wood, once they start moving towards the DC, you can just move them to build a mill, and even though they have wood, they will drop off the wood at the mill. You want to rally until you have 8 villagers on food. You're gonna get efficient production, piety, and you're gonna start wheelbarrow and survival techniques. Once you have 8, you're gonna move on to the gold, and you're gonna be on gold until you have 3. That's pretty much the setup, the standard build. After this, we're gonna discuss when we get there. So 3 on gold, you're gonna mine obviously 200. When you're aging up, this will be Tower of Victory build because we build a lot of archers, and we're gonna take 4 from berries and age up with 4. So we're gonna leave 4 on food, 4 on 4 are gonna be building landmark, and then these guys right here are gonna be on wood. So these guys are just after 8-3 split. I just rally on sheep to get food faster so I can age up. There's the Tower of Victory. Now I'm gonna move these guys to wood, and I usually like to chop the wood, what are they called? The straggler trees around my town center. So I have 4 here, 4 here, 3 rallying onto the wood, and you're gonna mine gold until you have 130. The reason why you want 130 gold is you will want to cancel this once you have 130, build another scholar, and then go sanctity because you will age up by then. So oh, okay, so one thing to note, don't pay, like, that's how you do the build. This game I did something different, but don't pay attention to that, alright? So in the second game, it's a more standard build. In this game, we get to the same point, but I did something different here because I wanted to go for a triple sacred site cap. Now, after this, what you're gonna do is whenever you have 130 gold, you make a scholar. You're gonna want to make a what's it called? Stable immediately. But before we continue off of that, I just remembered. That's my bad. I should have shown you the other game first. The other game is a better build order. This one is better fighting. So we're just gonna skip through the build order part, and I'm gonna explain it in the second game. So I'm gonna get all my upgrades. Whenever you age up to feudal with Delhi, you're gonna get all your upgrades. Don't worry about the build in this game. I'll show you the correct one in the second game. Up until age up and 300 gold to 130, that's all correct, okay? So, yeah, I joined the wrong game. But this one will show you a great way to fight and a great way to do map control and when or if you should be transitioning to castle. So in this one I went for the triple sacred site capture because the way Byzantines is played, just to give an explanation, is super like defensive early on. So I wanted to capture 3 triple sacred site immediately to force the Byzantine player to come out so that we can fight, because I don't want to fight in a TC, right? So we're gonna go on, capture the sacred site. Again, we're gonna speed up till the fight part, and we're gonna analyze the second game more in depth as far as the build goes. So your general idea with Delhi and this playstyle with 1 TC aggression is to put as much pressure with Ghazi Raiders and archers in order to capture the sacred sites first of all and defend them. And then the idea is you have 2 options. You will either capture sacred sites and you can slowly, get the gold and age up to castle, and then you can make men-at-arms and knights. and you can get the relics and hold sacred sites, and then you get the stone, and maybe you can attempt sacred site win with keeps. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is to just fully commit to feudal all in. Now, when you do commit to feudal all in, which is this game specifically, what you want to do is you can build a market and you can buy wood and food for your gold. So instead of making more scholars, which you don't need, what you can do is just buy food and wood, so you have even more economy on top of this. And when you do that, you'll be able to produce like insane amounts of units in Feudal Age. And you should be able to outproduce any civ in the game with that. So in this game, I went super aggro. The sacred site timer is ticking. The sacred sites are walled off, so there's no chance for him to interact. And I only do this if you want to go for the sacred site victory, or you just, you know, want to focus fighting on this side and you don't want to bother sending Ghazi Raiders, because the opponents will try to decap you, obviously. So, whenever you fight with Delhi, your goal is to always have Ghazi Raiders, obviously do not go near the spears. Your archers are there to kill the spears, and once spears are done, you can just, you know, YOLO in. So in this one, right here, what I want is my Ghazi Raiders to be on the ranged units, and my archers, you can see they're moving towards the hardened Limitanei. Now, Byzantines is a bit unique because the Limitanei have the ability to reduce range damage taken by 50%. So it's a lot more rough of a fight. But in general, Ghazi Raiders, you always want to go on ranged units, and then archers need to kill the spears. That's kind of the combo. Now, if you're playing against a Knight Civ as Delhi, I would suggest you also go for Spearmen eventually. You can open Ghazi Raiders even against Knight Civs and just spam Ghazi Raiders, and you will overwhelm the Knights early on. But later on, when the opponent has like 20 Knights, you cannot contest with Ghazi Raiders anymore. You need to make spears at a point. So, right here, I'm just doing the pressure, and while I'm doing the pressure, even though I'm not technically killing anything, the Sacred Site timer is ticking, so I'm preventing him from moving out on the map. And if he was to move out on the map, then I can just run in his base and kill all the economy, right? Another reason why Delhi is better now, in my opinion, than it used to be, is Ghazi Raiders have +2 damage against heavy, and they have 13 melee damage. So this might not seem like a big deal, but it is a very big deal because they can kill men-at-arms in feudal. So if there's English or HRE making men-at-arms in feudal, you can easily beat them, and they made Ghazi Raiders a lot better against Knights too, because you do more damage against them because they're heavy units. Last thing about Delhi and Ghazi Raiders as far as fights go, if you're going for this kind of style where you're feudal and you're just massing units, if you see the opponent ages up, a lot of people, what they do is they panic and they're like, oh my god, he's castle and I was gonna make the castle men-at-arms is gonna make the big knights and I'm gonna die. The strength of Delhi and why it's so good in feudal and open maps is even if your opponent ages up, you can actually just kill all their castle units with Ghazi Raiders, with archers. Your archers have 20% attack speed, and your Ghazi Raiders have bonus damage against armored units. So you will be able to just, even if he has 5 knights, like if there's 5 knights and I have this many units, I can just overwhelm the 5 knights and kill them. So don't be worried about that. If your goal is to stay in feudal and fight in feudal till death, and opponent ages up, keep making units. You don't need to age up. You can if you want to. If you think you have time, you can, but you don't need to. You don't need to panic. You can just continue and you can win the fight. So in general, the way you want to micro this is kind of what I'm doing here, where you charge in with Ghazi Raiders. When the spearmen come out from the opponent, you shoot with archers. And the reason why you do a line formation with archers like this, I just explained this in my micro guide. If you haven't watched that, check it out. When you have more than 20 archers, if you don't use the line formation, your archers will overkill by doing way too much damage on one spearman. So by doing line formation, the damage is more spread out, which is good because then you don't waste any damage on the units that would die anyway, right? So what you want to do is see it right here. I charge, Limitanei come out, the archers are killing them, then I try to poke again, the archers the Limited come out, the archers are farming them, and that's in general how you want to micro with Deli, right? You want to charge in, the opponent comes with spearmen, your archers are pumping their cheeks. Once the spearmen are about to connect with the Gazi Raiders, you move away, and eventually if you have like 30 Gazi Raiders and he only has 10 spearmen, you can just go for it. But if he has like 30 spearmen, you have 30 Gazi Raiders, don't fight for that, right? So, Byzantine is a really hard civ to beat in Feudal because of javelin throwers, but that fight, you know, was probably better than him than it was for me. I do a little run by here, don't do too much damage. And the idea behind Delhi is there's so many points you're pressuring your opponent, right? Number one is the sacred sites, right? So you can see this game is pretty even, right? Number one is the sacred sites. Number two is if the opponent rushes castle, you can just kill them straight away, or you can just overwhelm them with units. And in general, you should have more units than any other civ. Number three is even if you're not winning the game straight up, you can just starve out your opponent from food. Now in this game, Anna Chad had back deer and back berries, which is obviously really good. But if these berries and deer were like forward and forward, he wouldn't be able to get that food at all, which is why he never bothered to go for the top deer or the bottom berries. But if his food was more front, he would run out of food simply by me having the army in front. So that's another way to kind of get a win with Delhi or force your opponent to come out. So it's not only sacred sites that force them, but you cutting them off of food as well. And a lot of people after losing that fight would be like, oh, I need to transition to something else, this doesn't work. But as long as you manage to deny food for your opponent and put pressure, there will come a point where they're just not producing and you're still producing units. Now in this case, because the Sacred Timer was 3 minutes remaining, I decided to fully commit on units. I'm trying to do a little run by here with the Gazi Raiders, intercept the reinforcements, because I want to separate this army and I want to kind of crunch it, because I'm going pretty much all in on the Sacred Side win. I destroy all my walls because I want to make sure I can get a good surround here. And I don't think he thought I have this many units again, because we just fought. He sent Limitane back to defend the Gazi Raiders, the run-bys, and I managed to get a pretty good surround here. Do a little wall so he can't run away. I do a wall on the top side, and the game ends because the Sacred Side was about 2.5 minutes till the end. But even if he had Limitane, I think I had way too many units for that point in the game to kind of continue, and he would have to stay on Sacred Side. So he's no longer waiting in his base, he's out on the open where I can get really good surround and I can get really good engagement. Now, that being said, now I will show you the proper build order. So that was my bad. I just kind of talked through now at least with how you do the fights and what you want to do. Now, another thing is if you get to castle, my suggestion is to, if the opponent is nowhere close to aging up, what you can do is add 2-3 barracks and then produce men-at-arms knights and obviously get relics as fast as possible, assuming you have sacred sites already. When do you get second mosque? I usually get it in castle so I can fit 5 relics inside. So this is going to be the proper build order. So again, my bad. So I'm going to speed up this part. Now, in this game, I don't think I was walling off sacred sites, and I'll explain to you guys why in a little bit when we get to that point. And I did the normal build, okay? I hope so, at least. So here we go. 4, I'm going to turn on this so you guys can see it. 4 on landmark, 4 on berries, and now we're rallying onto the wood. Once I have 130 gold, there that's a lot of bots, Jesus Christ. Okay, I don't think there's any mod right in the chat, but I put subscriber only chat so that they wouldn't spam. Let's continue. Sorry about that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get another house. We're gonna get wood chop, and at 130 gold, I pull away my villagers. I make another scholar, so we will have a total of 2 scholars with this build. I get my sheep back. And the moment this finishes, you can also start forestry if you want, or you can just wait for double broad axe and then get forestry. The moment you age up, this is what you do. This is your priority, okay? This is the priority. First thing you do is remove piety and get sanctity, piety, all-seeing eye. Boom. Now this will be a rough at the start, but you'll get used to it. You just go XXC, XSC, right? And it's gonna go faster and faster in time. Then you click on mill. You can remove survival techniques. You go horticulture, survival techniques, and then pro scouts. On the lumber camp, you usually want to go double broad axe into forestry, and then get mining camp, specialized pick. Just start researching it, even though you won't be mining anything for a while. You want to start those upgrades because they're free. Now, if you want to get textiles against night civs and you think you will lose villagers or you can't defend properly or something, you can get textiles. But I usually like to skip textiles for as long as possible because it's a 20-second research time. So basically you lose a villager when you research this. Now, the moment you have 150 wood, you will want to throw down a stable and you will want to have 14 on food. This is a very specific number because that's how many you need. And then we're going to be rallying on wood for a very, 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 very long time. So that's at least easy to follow. You don't have to be switching like villagers left and right. So 2 unstable, and usually you want to build your stable next to mosque. And the reason for that is I will be putting one of the scholars in the stable so I can produce Ghazi Raiders immediately. So you can see I got my scholar out. Boom. And now with 14 on food, I'm gonna be able to produce a Ghazi Raider every 13 seconds. And you can do this against pretty much every civ to put a lot of pressure on them. Now we're gonna make another house, and the next 150 wood will be going to double blacksmith, and the next 150 will go to the second blacksmith. The reason I like to do double blacksmith is because I only have one scholar in mosque, and then the scholars will soon be going to capture sacred sites, so I want double blacksmith to make sure I get all my upgrades, you know, in time for the big fight. So usually what you do with these Ghazi Raiders, by the way, you should be done with scouting at this point. So what you want to do is, no matter what civ you play against, what if the Ayubid opened military wing? Well, he did open military wing. It's right there. What you want to do is just spam Ghazi Raiders now. Even if you are playing against French, even if you're playing against JD, whatever civ, your goal is to put pressure on the map. You should never, ever, ever, ever play defensive with Delhi. Your whole point is to just go, 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 put pressure, force opponents to not be on gold, not be on stone, deny their food, and then the moment they think you're backing off, you're capturing the sacred sites. So in this game, Ayubid went for the military wing, and then I saw the Desert Raider here. All you gotta do against the Desert Raider is just put a Ghazi Raider on it. You might think, but doesn't Desert Raider beat Ghazi Raider? Well, Ghazi Raider has 22 damage against ranged, and Desert Raiders are counted as ranged units. So Ghazi Raider hits it for 17, even though it has 5 melee armor. If the Desert Raider chooses to fight, it will beat a Ghazi Raider, but you can just move away and heal it up, and he loses the Desert Raider completely. So, yeah. So for him to fight Ghazi Raider is just a complete waste, and also I can just turn around with the rest of my units like this and kill it super, super easily. So you can see he's not even attempting to fight because camels are slower, and yeah, he just ends up losing it here. And if you look already, we're at 622. I have 5 Ghazi Raiders in the field, and I'm making more. And I'm making blacksmiths now. My upgrades are finishing, these first ones. And you can do so much pressure on your opponent. Now, my opponent here actually surprised me. He played a strat I haven't seen before. He actually stayed in feudal with Ayubids, which is, it's more like common to rush castle. But he stayed in feudal, and he made a lot of horsemen and stuff together with Desert Raiders. And I thought I would win those fights really easily, but I got wrecked later on pretty hardcore. So behind this, we got double blacksmith. In the first one, you will research steel the arrow into bloomery, into siege engineering. In the second one, you will research iron undermash and fitted leather work. Now we have archer range coming up. we have scholars coming out, and this archer range can also be barracks. So if I'm playing against a knight civ and I'm going Gazi Raiders, he's going like double stable knight, then there's no point to make archers, right? Because you would rather make spearmen, so you can counter the knights. But if your opponent is now going spearmen, then you want to go for archers. So it's kind of dependent. You almost always want to open with Gazi Raiders, but then the second unit depends what the opponent is going for. Is the mining upgrade completely free? Yeah, all upgrades with Delhi are free. They cost nothing. They just take longer to research. So this game, because he has Desert Raiders, I wanted to go archers to snipe them because they have no ranged armor. And my idea was I killed the Desert Raiders with archers, and then Gazi Raiders can beat up the horsemen because the horsemen do less damage than the Gazi Raiders. So I'm capturing sacred sites. And this is the style that is more commonly used in pro play. Now, some pro players go for one blacksmith, so their second unit is faster. Some pro players put scholars in production buildings instead of in Moscow research. There's plenty of variations, so I would suggest you guys try different ones and see which ones you like. So here I'm going for the sacred side, and because I don't have any archers yet or spearmen, I'm just protecting the scholars with my Gazi Raiders. And I think this was a fight. Maybe it was a bit later. So I captured. I started getting the gold. My opponent is still in feudal, which I'm happy with because I've played Delhi, so I don't mind that he's in feudal. As long as we're staying feudal, Delhi's in a pretty good spot. So this is where we go for a fight. And I actually get wrecked pretty badly. And I'm assuming the aura did a lot more than I thought it would. Like, I'm not really doing too much damage against it. So, what you can also do whenever you micro with Gazi Raiders, you can always try to move them back like this and use your scholars to heal them. So if you look, I managed to move a couple of Gazi Raiders back right here, so they didn't die. And now you can send them to your scholar that's captured the sacred, so there's something to just heal them up. Now, whenever you're playing against an opponent that is making like cavalry units and archers, or cavalry units and spearmen, what top pro players do, they usually add all three production buildings, which is stables, barracks, and archer ranges. So basically the idea is you use your stables early on to harass, to put pressure, to, you know, pick off villagers with different food sources or whatever. And then later on, you want to transition to barracks archers because they are cheaper on food. You will be able to sustain on food longer. And because you went Tower of Victory, you have 20% attack speed on all your units. So if the opponent is committing into knights and you have some Gazi Raiders, you force them to make spearmen. And then you went into spearman archer. They're the ones making more expensive units. So you should be able to out-sustain them on the food sources, okay? So right now, I'm producing everything. I'm producing Gazi Raiders, I'm producing archers, I'm producing spearmen. And even if you're playing against a civ that has a lot of spearmen, you might be like, oh, he has spearmen, you know, I gotta stop making horsemen. You shouldn't do that. You can, because you will have a lot of food income, but also you can use your Gazi Raiders to go around and harass. So even though I'm playing against Ayubid that has camels and stuff, I still go for Gazi Raiders because you can take a lot of the map control and deny a lot of the stuff with them. If you have the multitasking, obviously if you're like new player, you don't need to do all these things in order to make it as Delhi. You can just, you know, make Spearman Archer from the get-go, or just use Gazi Raiders as part of your main army. But whenever you feel that Gazi Raiders are not doing much in the main fight, like if you have 10 Gazi Raiders, the opponent has 20 spears, they're not going to do much, right? So you might as well take the Gazi Raiders and just go around and harass the opponent food or gold or whatever else. So I'm going to try to heal up all these guys with my scholars. And another thing that Gazi Raiders are great for is if you're not walling off sacred sites, maybe the opponent is defending it too quickly, or you just, you know, didn't get the time to do it, Gazi Raiders can quickly hop over there and kill the units that decapping it, because very often in AOE4, people will not put their whole army here and wait for 30 seconds. They're just gonna send one unit, right? So you can take like 1-2 Geyser Raiders or all Geyser Raiders and try to he does some damage here. But already, if you look, and this is what I'm talking about with Deli, because all my upgrades are free, if you look at his upgrades, he does not have them. I'm getting ahead on upgrades. And right now, if you look at the army supply, it is pretty bad for him, right? He has 8 archers. I have 17 archers with 20% attack speed, and he has no counter to my army right now. Like, if we fight, I will dent him in completely. And again, you can use your Geyser Raiders like this to harass the villagers and to kill stuff as much as possible. I'm doing some walling here with my units. Delhi can wall with their units to protect these deer and just to not have run-bys on this side. And this is the type of game where you can see it's very different from the previous one I showed you. My goal here is not to win with sacred sites. My goal is to just eventually kill my opponent or deny their food sources, right? So the previous game, we had a clear game where I was just going for the sacred sites. I walled them in. I was buying wood and food in the feudal to just get as many units as possible, but the goal was sacred sites. In this game, you can see it. I'm not walling them. I'm not interested. It's more like I capture them and I get gold from them, but I'm not like, oh no, he decapped it, I guess I lose kind of thing. And right now, my army is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And at this point, you can see the way I have gold and food. I could also just age up at this point and go into like man-at-arm or something. That's also a viable thing. I'm getting a good amount of gold. If we look at the income right now, this is kind of what Delhi is known for and why Delhi is so good in feudal. 850, 644. Meanwhile, my income is 1,700 and 354. So I have 2,000 resources per minute. He has like, let's say 1.5k. And he killed more villagers of mine than I did of his, right? And that's because sacred sites are pretty good. So I'm going to speed up. And all I'm doing right now, oh yeah, I catch his army here, which was really good. And all I'm doing is the whole time I've been playing this game, I kept paying attention to these berries and these deer. Because if he does not get these, and I'm still making units and massing units, he will run out of food. And if he has to transition to farms, he's probably lost the game because I can pump out way more units. So here we go. We go for the main fight. I'm trying to get Geyser Raiders and archers like always. And right now, it just, you can see the amount of units I have is just way too much, right? It looks pretty one-sided. Again, my archers are stronger, so even if we have same amount of archers, my archers have 20% attack speed. You can use spearmen to protect your, archers and stuff like that, but this was the type of game where it's like, okay, his food is very exposed, so instead of me going for sacred side win or aging up, exposed food in that way is a big weakness, so I'll just make units, and eventually he's going to run out of food, and then you kind of go for it. When he tries to go on that food, or when he transitions or something like that. So Delhi has a very unique play style and mindset, and the mindset in general with Delhi is to end games in feudal, because that's where I feel like you're the strongest. Now, once again, if you do manage at some point, like you create the lead for yourself, you have the 3 sacred sites, and you're like, I have a lot of resources, so what do I do? You can go castle, and I would suggest you start mining stone, get all the upgrades in castle first. That's really important. Like, you gotta queue up all the upgrades first. Try to maintain your sacred sites while getting stone. Start throwing keeps, 1 keep per sacred sites. And if you manage to do that, all you have to do is just completely commit to defending the sacred sites. Whether that's building springles or mangonels or units, just kind of all in off of it if it's like 2-3 minutes remaining. You don't need to extend the game further on. And this is the reason why I love Delhi is, and I think people in general in lower leagues underestimate Delhi quite a bit, is yes, it does require micro, and yes, you need to be active with it. But if you're someone who doesn't like super long games, or the opponents are going to TC and you don't know how to punish them, that's the thing with Delhi. You don't even have to go to the enemy base to kill their TCs or workers in order to win. They will have to come to you, right? So you kind of lure the opponents out with the sacred sites. So that is pretty much it. That is the updated version of Delhi, 1 TC aggression, kind of the ideas behind it, what your plans are. And in general, I would say Delhi's weaknesses as far as civilizations go are probably China and Jushi's legacy. Like HRE used to be a big counter to Delhi, it's not really anymore because of the Ghazi Raiders. And even if HRE rushes castle, you can just kill them. I don't know if I would say as far as that Delhi counters HRE now, but I think Delhi's pretty good into HRE. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. The next guide that I should be doing is HRE Castle Rush. And once again, all my other guides are updated for the old civs, except Ottoman Way and HRE and Delhi, which now Delhi is done, which I will be updating, and then we're gonna make new guides for the new civilizations. So, YouTube gamers, thanks for watching. Check me out on Twitch, I'm probably live right now. Twitch gamers,